News on a corruption suit against President Trump. The U.S. Appeals Court in Manhattan is reviving a case that looks at Trump profiting from spending at his properties from foreign governments. You may recall this has been in the news a lot previously. The suit basically alleging that by failing to untangle himself from his hotels, Trump is vulnerable to any kind of bribes from foreigners. Bottom line, will Trump put the country above his businesses? The suit says no. All this coming after reporting all week and scandal after scandal of taxpayer money, which is a related issue, going to Trump's pockets. You have the military personnel at Trump's resort. You have Turnberry staffers telling the New York Times anonymously that the military stays are a regular occurrence, and they're often very large groups. Washington Post now also reporting the vice president's trip, not only there caused a lot of trouble, but there was also the D.C. hotel, which featured him last night, a conservative group paying that Trump hotel ballroom, and Secretary of State Pompeo speaking today.
It is really, truly wonderful to be here. I look around, this is such a beautiful hotel. The guy who owns it must be going to be successful somewhere along the way. That was for the Washington Post, in case they're in the back.
Grade A trolling. I'm joined by Walter Schaub. You may know his name because he's the former director of the Office of Government Ethics. He worked directly with the incoming Trump officials. He ultimately stepped down. And, sir, your challenges on the conflicts of interest in the administration are something I covered back when you were in government. I don't know if you remember. Sometimes I was calling you and your folks. They wouldn't return my calls at the time, but we did ultimately see what you were doing and what you wrote down at the time. And at a bottom line level, it seems the ethics concerns you outlined are now coming home to roost. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these times where you hate to be right. But 2.5 years ago, I warned what would happen if this man committed the original sin of his administration, which was keeping his financial interest in these conflicting assets. And it's just proven to be as bad as I feared it could be.
What do you think of Secretary of State Pompeo? He's doing the thing that has become politically popular on the right, which is leaning into it, trolling, making it about the Washington Post. Well, it's not about the Washington Post. They've just uncovered facts here that would suggest these conflicts. Do you think it's even appropriate for the Secretary of State to speak that way?
Yeah, I mean, not only is it inappropriate for him to be there in the first place on behalf of Trump, hosting Trump's paying guests, but taunting people over his behavior actually sends a message to a secondary audience, which is the gigantic federal workforce that are subject to really strict rules. And here they have one of Trump's top appointees telling them that these rules don't matter at all, and it's all just a big joke.
Let me show you the new reporting that Ivanka Trump says, when asked about her moral compass, and she's, of course, been involved in the Trump organization business-wise, and she works in the government. She says her moral compass comes from her father. And that's something we've heard from her before. I think we have a little bit of sound on that as well. Take a listen.
My father taught my siblings and me the importance of positive values and a strong ethical compass.
It's become normalized for some that the children seem to play these dual roles. Your view of all of that part of this?
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that she's not only a daughter, but she's a top presidential advisor, and she's telling the American people and, again, that federal workforce that Trump's behavior is a model of good, ethical, moral behavior, when actually what he's done for 2.5 years is degrade the ethical culture of the executive branch. So I don't know that that's anything to be terribly proud of.
What should Congress do?
Well, Congress needs to start doing oversight across the board, not just one party, but both. And we watched for 2 years as Congress simply did absolutely nothing. Then the House changed hands, and you have one chamber of Congress actually trying to conduct oversight. But the White House has adopted an across-the-board opposition to any kind of oversight. So it really should be a bipartisan effort standing up for really fundamental principles of public service. Instead, you have 90 members of his own caucus attending events at his hotel over the past 2.5 years, participating in this corrupting influence on our country.
And one thing we've seen in people who do stand up to the president, whether they're career officials with nonpartisan roles, as you were, or appointees, is it does matter what their situation is. Do you think that the extreme reliance on these so-called acting or temporary officials undercuts also their ability to defend these ethics rules in their agencies, which in a healthy government is part of the expectation.
Yeah, I think absolutely. There's a reason that Congress over the years has passed statutes and revised them, and I'm thinking particularly of the Vacancies Reform Act, but also agency-specific statutes that try to discourage the president from having acting officials by stripping them of power over a certain number after a certain period of time for a very important reason, and that's that acting officials are much more vulnerable to the whims of the president. He can replace them in a heartbeat, and many of them may feel like they're auditioning for the job. And even the best ones of them are going to feel like they don't have the full mandate to really uphold the laws that their agencies are in charge of enforcing.
Yeah, you lay it out there. It's another issue that we've been covering, and it's something Donald Trump may not have known 4 years ago, even about how that works, and yet he's leaned into anywhere that he finds give in the system. Walter Schaub, thank you for joining me and taking the questions.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.